I sat at the edge of the anniversary party, my untouched wine glass cold in my hand. Glasses clinked around me, and laughter filled the room, but it all felt distant. My father stood up, his voice warm with pride. "To Audrey," he said, raising his glass. "Without you, we would have lost everything. Our home, our life. You saved us." Audrey smiled, soaking in the applause, her face glowing under the candlelight. Nobody looked at me. They never did. 5 years of sending anonymous checks, 5 years of watching someone else take credit for my sacrifice, and in that moment, with those bank statements tucked in my purse, something inside me snapped. Growing up, I was the shadow in our family. Audrey, my older sister, was the star. I was 6 when I first noticed how Mom's eyes sparkled as she pinned curls in Audrey's hair before a dance recital, the air thick with the sweet sting of hairspray. Dad checked his watch, eager to get to her show. I stood by the door, clutching my math homework with a big red A+, hoping they'd notice. They didn't. Every weekend, they were front row for Audrey's performances, her trophies piling up on the mantel. But my moments? They were invisible. I was 12 when I won the citywide science fair. My volcano model, the one I'd spent weeks building, actually erupted on stage. I called home, my voice shaking with excitement. "Mom, I won!" A pause, then her distracted reply. "That's nice, honey, but we're busy. Audrey needs a dress for her date." The line went dead. That night, I carried my trophy to my room. It felt too heavy, cold against my hands. I slid it under my bed, out of sight. They hadn't even asked what I'd built. After that, I stopped waiting for them to show up. Debate championships, honor roll ceremonies, my high school graduation, they were always too busy. But for Audrey's recitals, they never missed a step. Each missed moment built a wall around my heart. I learned to stop hoping for their attention. Instead, I made a promise to myself. If they wouldn't see me, I'd build something they couldn't ignore. College wasn't easy. My parents paid for Audrey's tuition, but for me, they said, "Take out loans. It builds character." So I did. I worked 2 jobs, lived on cheap noodles, and studied until my eyes burned. After graduation, I moved across the country and started my own tech company. Some nights, I slept on the office floor, too tired to go home. Empty coffee mugs piled up, and the light above my desk flickered, but I kept going. Every line of code, every pitch to investors, was a step toward proving I was enough. Then came the day we landed $2 million in funding. Articles called me a rising star. My company grew, but back home, nothing changed. I sent birthday cards every year. Mom's, Dad's, even Audrey's. Sometimes I'd get a text back. Usually I didn't. The silence hurt more than I wanted to admit. Success filled my bank account, but it couldn't fill the emptiness where their love should have been. 5 years ago, my phone rang. It was Mom, her voice shaky. "Your father lost his job," she said. "He's 65. Our savings are gone." She didn't ask for help, not directly. "We might have to sell the house," she said, her words careful, like she was afraid to say more. I swallowed hard. "Do you need money?" I asked. A pause. "We'd never ask that of you. Audrey visits every weekend. That's what we really need." The call ended, but her words stayed with me. They didn't need me. They never had. That night I sat at my desk staring at my bank account. I could help them. I could save their home. But I knew they'd never thank me. I set up anonymous payments, enough to cover their mortgage and bills. I told myself it was closure, a way to let go. But deep down, a small part of me hoped they'd figure out it was me. Every month I got a confirmation. Transfer complete. And every month, that hope faded. They never called. They never asked. They had Audrey, their perfect daughter. I was just the one they forgot. At the party, as Dad's toast echoed, I felt the weight of those 5 years. Audrey smiled, accepting praise she hadn't earned. My purse sat heavy on my lap, the bank statements inside like a truth I wasn't sure I could share. Have you ever done something kind for someone who never appreciated you? What made you keep going when they didn't see you? That's what I asked myself as I watched my family celebrate a lie. The answer was coming, but it wasn't what I expected. I sat in my office, the glow of my laptop the only light in the room. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, setting up the first anonymous payment to my parents. I calculated every cent, mortgage, utilities, enough for groceries. It wasn't hard to figure out. I'd always been good with numbers, but when I clicked anonymous sender, my stomach twisted. Part of me wanted them to know it was me, their forgotten daughter, saving them. Another part knew they'd never believe it. I hit confirm, and the screen flashed. Transfer complete. I told myself this was closure, but deep down, it felt like I was still begging for their attention. Years ago, at my college graduation, I'd hoped they'd see me. I stood in my cap and gown, scanning the crowd. They showed up late, Mom fussing with her purse, Dad checking his phone. They stayed just long enough to snap a blurry photo, then left early for Audrey's art show, a few paintings in a coffee shop. It's important to support her, Mom said, like my degree was just another Tuesday. That memory stung as I stared at the payment confirmation. 5 years passed, and every month I sent those checks. Not once did they call to thank me. Not once did they ask where the money came from. It was like I didn't exist. My life moved forward, even if their love didn't. My company grew, landing me in magazines as a tech trailblazer. I'd walk past newsstands and see my face, smiling confidently, while inside, I carried the weight of their silence. One Christmas, a card arrived from Mom and Dad. "Things are tight," they wrote, "but Audrey brings groceries sometimes." I read it twice, my hands shaking. Audrey brought groceries. I paid their entire mortgage. I tossed the card in the trash, but the hurt stayed. Still, I wasn't alone anymore. My friends, my chosen family, filled my life with laughter and late-night talks. They saw me, celebrated me, in ways my parents never did. But sometimes, in weak moments, I'd check their social media. Posts about Audrey's visits, her selfless heart, glowed on my screen. "Our rock," Dad called her. I'd close the app, heart heavy, wondering why I kept looking. Talking to my therapist helped. "It's like I'm still that little girl," I told her, hoping they'll notice me. She nodded, her voice gentle. "You're giving them money, but it's not about the money. It's about wanting to be seen." I hated how true that felt. Once, during a rare call with Mom, I almost told her. "I've been helping you," I started, my voice shaky. She cut me off, talking about Audrey's new job. I swallowed the words, feeling foolish for trying. Over time, therapy showed me my parents weren't cruel, just human, flawed, stuck in their own world. They loved Audrey because she was there, easy to love. I was far away, a puzzle they didn't bother solving. The payments, I realized, weren't closure. They were a chain, tying me to a hope that would never come true. Then came the invitation. Mom called, her voice casual. "We're having our 50th anniversary party. Audrey suggested we invite you too." The word "too" hit like a slap. I was an afterthought even now. I stared at the phone, debating whether to go. Part of me wanted to stay away, to keep my distance and my peace. But another part, the part that still remembered being 6, watching them cheer for Audrey, needed to see them one last time. Not to change them, but to face them as they truly were. I said yes, my voice steady, already planning my goodbye. The night before I left, I pulled out the bank statements. 5 years of proof, neatly stacked. I didn't plan to show anyone. They were for me, a reminder of what I'd done, what they'd ignored. I tucked them into my purse, like a shield against their blindness. I thought about my parents once, years ago, talking over coffee. I wasn't there, but I can imagine it. "Where's this money coming from?" Dad might have asked, frowning at the bank statement. Mom shrugged. "Probably some government program." They nodded, satisfied, never digging deeper. It was easier to believe a faceless system saved them than to think of me, their daughter, who'd been gone so long in their minds. Packing my bag, I felt a strange calm. This wasn't about winning their love anymore. It was about seeing the truth, about them, about me. I'd spent years hoping they'd change, hoping they'd see my worth. But sometimes the hardest thing is accepting people for who they are, not who you want them to be. We often hold on to hope that someone will finally see us. What moment made you realize it was time to let go of a difficult relationship? Share your thoughts below. The drive to my childhood home felt like stepping into a memory. The oak trees lining the road were taller now, their branches heavier, but the faded mailbox at the end of the driveway hadn't changed. My hands tightened on the steering wheel as I pulled up. The house looked smaller, the paint chipped in places I didn't remember. I took a deep breath, grabbed my purse with the bank statements inside, and stepped out. This was it. One last time to see them for who they were. Mom greeted me at the door, her smile quick and distracted. "Oh, you're here," she said, already turning to wave at a neighbor. Dad gave me a stiff hug, his eyes scanning the crowd behind me. Then Audrey swept in, and their faces lit up. Mom pulled her into a long embrace, gushing, "You look radiant." Dad clapped her shoulder, beaming. I stood there, clutching my purse, invisible again. The party buzzed around me, tables draped in white, fairy lights twinkling, centerpieces too perfect to be handmade. Audrey took credit for the decorations, saying she'd worked so hard. I raised an eyebrow. Those looked like a professional's work, but nobody questioned her. I wandered through the crowd, catching snippets of conversation. "Audrey's such a blessing," an uncle said, sipping his drink. "Always there for them," a cousin added. My throat tightened. Extended family approached me, their surprise obvious. "Didn't think you'd make it," one said, like I was a stranger. I forced a smile, nodding, until my aunt, gray-haired and sharp-eyed, pulled me aside. She squeezed my hand, her voice low. "I've always seen you, dear," she whispered. Her words hit hard, a flicker of warmth in the cold. I blinked back tears, thanking her softly. Needing a moment, I slipped upstairs to my old bedroom. It wasn't mine anymore. Boxes and old furniture filled the space, dust coating everything. I opened a drawer in the corner desk, half expecting it to be empty. Instead, I found a report card from high school, straight A's inked across it. My fingers traced the paper, yellowed and forgotten. They'd never even mentioned it. I closed the drawer, the weight of those years settling in my chest. Downstairs, the party carried on, oblivious. At dinner, I was seated at the far end of the table, a sea of faces between me and my parents. Audrey sat between them, laughing, her chair pulled close. I poked at my food, the clink of forks and chatter fading into a hum. Then Dad stood, glass in hand, his voice cutting through the noise. "Family means standing by each other," he began, his tone warm. 5 years ago, we almost lost everything. Our savings, our home, gone. But an angel stepped in, kept us afloat. My heart thudded. The bank statements in my purse felt like they were burning. Mom leaned forward, her eyes on Audrey. "Audrey has been our rock," she said, voice thick with pride. The room clapped, glasses raised. I gripped the papers under the table, my knuckles white. Audrey smiled, basking in it. Then she spoke, her voice casual, like she was commenting on the weather. "I've been thinking," she said, "I should move in with you. The house is big enough, and clearly you need me." Mom's face lit up. "Oh, that's perfect," she said, already planning which room Audrey could take. Dad nodded, grinning. "We'd love that," he said. My fork slipped, clattering against my plate. The sound barely registered over their excitement. My heart raced, pounding in my ears. My face felt hot, my hands trembling. 5 years of silence, 5 years of sending money while Audrey took the credit. And now this, her moving in, claiming a role I'd paid for. The room seemed to slow, every second stretching. Their voices, Mom's laugh, Dad's plans, Audrey's smug tone, blurred into a distant hum. My mind screamed, "Say something, don't let this lie stand." But my body froze, caught between fear and fury. I saw myself at 6, waiting for them to notice my A+. At 12, hiding my science trophy. At 22, graduating alone. Every moment I'd swallowed my hurt, hoping they'd see me, flashed before me. My fingers brushed the bank statements, the paper crinkling. I didn't plan this. I'd brought them for me to remind myself why I needed to let go. But now, with their words echoing, something shifted. 5 years of silence was enough. My chair scraped as I stood, the sound sharp in the quieting room. My hands shook, but my voice didn't. "It wasn't Audrey," I said, louder than I meant. Heads turned. Mom's smile faltered. Dad frowned. Audrey's eyes narrowed. I pulled the statements from my purse, my heart still racing, and placed them on the table. "The money, the checks that saved your house, they were from me, every month, for 5 years. The words hung there, heavy, unbreakable. The room was silent, every eye on me. For the first time, I wasn't invisible. We all have moments where the truth matters more than keeping the peace. My body knew before my mind did. Racing heart, flushed face, trembling hands. They told me I couldn't stay silent anymore. What signs show you when you've reached your breaking point? Has your body ever decided for you before you were ready? Share your thoughts below, and let's keep this story going. The bank statements hit the table with a soft thud, but to me it sounded like a door slamming shut. My voice cut through the silence, steady despite the pounding in my chest. Actually, the money came from me. The room froze. Mom's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes wide. Dad's glass wobbled in his hand, his face paling. Audrey's smile vanished, replaced by a flash of panic. I stood there, the weight of 5 years lifting, watching the truth land on each of them. Audrey recovered first, her voice sharp. "You're just jealous, like always." Her words stung, but I was ready. I spread the statements out, pointing to the dates, the amounts, the account numbers tied to my bank. "Every month," I said. 5 years. It's all here." Her eyes darted to the papers, then away, her cheeks flushing. Mom gasped. A small, broken sound. Dad stammered. "But we didn't know." The extended family shifted uncomfortably. Some cousins slipped toward the door, avoiding my gaze. Others leaned closer, whispering. I felt their eyes, but for once, I didn't care. The truth was out, and it was mine. I looked at my parents, my voice quieter now. "Did you ever wonder where the money came from?" They stared, silent. "Did you ever try to find out, or was it easier to give Audrey credit?" Mom's lips trembled. "We thought, maybe a program for seniors," she mumbled. Dad nodded, clutching at the excuse. "We didn't think to ask." My heart sank, but not from surprise. I'd known they'd say something like that. Then I remembered the thank you notes. Every few months, I'd left one in their mailbox, unsigned, hoping they'd feel my presence. "You got my notes," I said, my voice catching. "I saw them in your kitchen once, stacked by the fridge. You never responded." Mom's eyes dropped to the table. Dad looked away. The silence was louder than any answer. Audrey's chair scraped as she stood, her face red. "I never said I was sending money," she snapped, her voice defensive. Heads turned to her. "I knew about the payments, okay? But I thought they were from your ex-husband." My jaw tightened. My ex? I hadn't spoken to him in years. She was grasping, and everyone could see it. You knew it wasn't him, I said, my voice low. You let them believe it was you. Her eyes flickered, caught. Then she faltered, her voice softer. Your weekends here, I pressed. They weren't even real visits, were they? Dropping by for an hour, taking credit for my work. A cousin gasped. An aunt shook her head. Audrey's shoulders slumped, her bravado crumbling. For a moment, I doubted myself. Had I gotten it wrong? Was I twisting the past, letting years of hurt cloud my memory? I glanced at the statements, the black and white proof of every transfer. No, this was real. The dates didn't lie. The money didn't lie. I wasn't the one hiding. Audrey's voice broke the silence, small and raw. You left us behind, she said, her eyes meeting mine. You moved across the country. I was here. I swallowed, the words hitting harder than I expected. You pushed me away, I said, my voice steady but soft. All of you did. For the first time, I saw something flicker in her eyes, not anger, but regret. It was fleeting, but it was there. The room felt heavy, the air thick with unspoken truths. Mom reached for Dad's hand, her fingers trembling. Dad cleared his throat, but no words came. The family watched, some frozen, others murmuring. I felt a strange calm settle over me. Years of tension, of hoping, of hiding, poured out with those statements. I wasn't shaking anymore. I wasn't invisible. I'd spent so long carrying their silence, but now, standing there, I let it go. The truth wasn't just for them, it was for me. Truth has a way of showing more than we expect. It peels back the stories we tell ourselves, the ones we let define us. Have you ever learned a family story you believed wasn't entirely true? How did it change the way you saw the past? Share your thoughts below, and let's keep this story going. The air outside was cool, a sharp contrast to the stifling tension in the dining room. I stepped onto the porch, my breath shaky, the bank statement still crumpled in my hand. The night was quiet, crickets humming softly, and I leaned against the railing, letting the weight of what just happened settle. Vindication surged through me. I'd finally been seen, but grief followed close behind. All those years, all that hurt, and it took a stack of papers to make them look at me. I closed my eyes, trying to sort through the mess of feelings, when the door creaked behind me. Dad stood there, his shoulders slumped. He didn't say anything at first, just sat on the porch steps, staring at the ground. I braced myself for excuses, but instead, his voice broke the silence, low and raw. We failed you, he said. Not just today, but always. The words hit like a punch. I'd waited my whole life to hear them, but they didn't erase the pain. They just made it real. I nodded, unable to speak, and we sat there, the quiet stretching between us, heavy but honest. Later, inside, Mom found me in the kitchen. Her eyes were red, her hands twisting a napkin. I envied you, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. You built this life, so independent, and I didn't know how to reach you. I stared at her, stunned. All this time I thought they didn't care, but she'd seen my strength and felt small because of it. Then Audrey joined us, her face streaked with tears. I felt trapped, she said, her voice cracking. They leaned on me, expected me to be perfect, and I couldn't let them down. I saw it then, the way our family's dynamic worked for everyone but me. They leaned on Audrey's presence, Mom's pride, Dad's denial, while I was left carrying the weight alone. We thought you didn't need us, Mom said softly. I swallowed hard, my voice steady. Everyone needs to be seen. That night, I made a decision. No more anonymous payments. I sat with them the next morning, laying out a clear plan. I'll help, I said. But it's transparent now. No more secrets. They nodded, hesitant but listening. I set expectations. Calls, not just texts. Visits, not just cards. I didn't sugarcoat it. Trust would take time, maybe years, and it might never fully heal. But saying it out loud felt like freedom. I'm done being invisible, I told them. And for the first time, I believed it. The days that followed were a blur of reflection. Standing up to them showed me my own worth, not because they apologized, but because I stopped waiting for their validation. I'd spent years chasing a love they couldn't give, but the truth set me free. A week later, I met Audrey for coffee. It wasn't easy. She was defensive, then quiet, then honest. I was jealous too, she admitted. You got out. I stayed. We didn't hug or promise to be close, but we talked, really talked, for the first time in years. It was messy, unresolved, but it was real. When I got home, my friends were waiting. They'd heard the story, seen the statements, and now they saw me. Raw, brave, whole. We laughed over dinner, their voices filling the emptiness I'd carried for so long. They were my family, the ones who'd always seen me. The checks stopped being anonymous, but more importantly, I stopped being anonymous in my own life. Sometimes the victory isn't about changing others. It's about reclaiming your truth. Have my parents changed? It's complicated. But I've changed, and that's what matters most. 6 months later, I sat at a family dinner, the first in years. The table was smaller, the conversation cautious. Mom asked about my work, her tone careful but curious. Dad listened, nodding, not interrupting. Audrey shared a story, then passed me the potatoes, a small gesture that felt bigger. It wasn't perfect. Old habits lingered. Mom's quick glance at Audrey, Dad's awkward pause. But it was different, a start. Change isn't a moment, it's a process, and we were trying. What truth have you been hiding that deserves to be acknowledged? Are you ready to stop being anonymous in your own story? Share your journey in the comments below, and let's keep telling stories of courage and transformation.